Despite the winter, the first snowfall of the year always brought back memories that Nina preferred to forget. The city, covered in an impeccable white, seemed to ignore the cracks that still remained in her heart. While the cold wind blew, she adjusted her scarf and continued walking towards the small cafe where she had been working for a couple of months. Upon entering, a warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee and cianella wrapped her, helping her shake off the cold from outside. She greeted Clara, her shift partner, and went to the bar. Everything seemed the same as always until the door opened and the ringing of the bells marked the arrival of a client. Nina looked up, and her heart stopped for an instant. There was Leo, standing, shaking the snow off his coat. 5 years had passed from the last time she saw him, but he hadn't changed much. His hair was still slightly messy, and his eyes maintained that intensity that had captivated her so much. He didn't see her immediately. See? He walked toward the bar, checking the menu as if it were his first time there. When their eyes finally met, Nina felt the air grow heavier. "Nina," he said, with a mixture of surprise and disbelief. She tried to maintain her composure. "Hello, Leo." There was an awkward moment in which neither knew what to say. Finally, Clara broke the silence, asking Leo what he wanted to order. He stammered black coffee please, and then looked back at Nina. When the order was ready, Leo approached timidly. "Do you have a moment to talk?" he asked, holding the cup with both hands. Nina hesitated. She wanted to say no, that she was busy, but something in her voice made her nod. Clara gestured for her to take a break, and Nina followed her to a table near the window. "I didn't expect to find you here," said Leo after a sip of coffee. "Nor I you," she replied, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. The silence returned to ends. They talked, until he broke it with a question that seemed to have been waiting a long time to be asked. "Why did you leave, Nina?" She felt the words catching in her throat. They were together for 3 years, sharing laughter, dreams, and future plans. But then, in the middle of a winter like this, Nina had simply left, leaving a note that didn't explain much. "I have more than a sorry. It wasn't because I didn't love you," he finally said, unable to hold his gaze. "It was because I was afraid to stay." Leo frowned, clearly confused. "Stay? Si amigo?" "No, contigo," she clarified quickly. "With myself. It wasn't good, Leo. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. I was lost, and I felt that I was dragging you with me." Leo left the cup on at the table, his expression softening. "You could have told me that. We could have faced it together." Nina let out a sigh. "I didn't know how. And when I finally realized it, it was already too late." "Late?" He nodded slowly, as if he were processing her words. "I spent a lot of time trying to understand it, Nina. I wondered what I had done wrong, if there was anything I could have changed." "It wasn't your fault, Leo. It was mine," she said, sincerely. "I never stopped thinking about you, but I didn't have the courage to return." He looked at her intently, as if searching for an answer in her eyes. "And now, are you okay?" The question took her by surprise. Nina paused to reflect before answering. "Not completely, but I'm better. I'm learning to live with myself, to accept my mistakes." Leo smiled slightly, and for a moment, the tension between them seemed to vanish. "I'm glad to hear that." There was a pause before he added, "Would you like to try again?" The question afloat in the air, filling the space between them. Nina felt her heart beating strongly. She had dreamed of that possibility for years, but now that it was in front of her, she didn't know if it was what. "Correct. Leo, I don't want to hurt you again," he finally said, with a lump in his throat. "I don't want to risk what's left of us." "Elena, life is a risk," he replied, taking her hand with delicacy. "I don't know what will happen, but I do know that I want to try." She looked at him, and in her eyes she saw something that hadn't changed, her unconditional love. "Okay," she whispered, with a small smile. "Let's try it." The cafe continued filling with customers while the snow kept falling outside. But for Nina and Leo, winter no longer felt so cold. They had found the courage to face their fears and give themselves a second chance, one that this time they were not willing to let go. And so, under the snowfall, they began to write a new chapter, one that promised to be warmer, luminoso que cualquiera de los anteriores. End.